Whispers in the Green Room. Cha Eun-woo and Moon Jae-young. The Green Room was supposed to be a sanctuary, a quiet place where guests could breathe, gather themselves, and prepare before the blinding studio lights consumed them. But for Cha Eun-woo, it felt more like a holding cell. In less than an hour, he would face a nation. The televised interview was his one chance to tell his truth, to clear his name from a scandal that had nearly ruined him. Allegations of fraud, betrayal, and double dealings had trailed him for months. Shadows cast by faceless accusers who never seemed to rest. His reputation had been dragged through every headline, his image dissected on every screen. Tonight, he could finally take back control. But as he sat before the mirror, tugging at his tie with a hand that refused to stop shaking, doubt gnawed at him. "Breathe," a familiar voice said gently. He turned. Moon Jae-young stood in the doorway, holding 2 paper cups of coffee, her presence instantly softening the tension in the air. She was more than just his colleague, more than just his anchor through the chaos. She was the one person who had stayed when everyone else walked away. She set the cup in front of him and gave a small smile. "It's just coffee, not a magic potion. But it helps." Eun-woo let out a shaky laugh, taking the cup. "What if I freeze out there? What if they twist my words?" "Then we untwist them together," she replied without hesitation. Her confidence was steady, almost stubborn. "You don't have to carry this alone." 2. A whisper behind the curtain. A producer called for Eun-woo to be mic'd up. Jae-young excused herself to give him space, wandering toward the back of the green room where the curtains parted into a narrow hallway lined with storage closets and spare equipment. That was when she heard it. 2 voices, low, urgent, laced with conspiracy. "The feed will cut at the 20-minute mark. Enough to rattle him. He won't recover. The public won't trust him after that." Jae-young froze. The words slithered through the crack of a half-closed door, chilling her blood. Another voice responded, sharper, angrier. "Make sure it looks like an accident. No glitches pointing back to us." Her pulse quickened. Sabotage. Someone was planning to ruin Eun-woo's interview before he even had a chance. She leaned closer, her ear brushing the cold doorframe. The voices grew clearer. And then one of them laughed, a laugh that cut through her like a blade. Her breath caught. She knew that laugh. It belonged to someone she thought she'd buried in her past. Memories she had locked away came rushing back. Years ago, when she was just starting her career, she had worked under a senior producer named Jun-ho. Charismatic, ambitious, dangerous. He had once been her mentor, guiding her through the chaos of the broadcast world. But when she uncovered shady dealings in his department, money funneled through fake sponsorships, he had turned on her. Her whistleblowing had nearly cost her career. Jun-ho had disappeared from the industry after that, or so she thought. And now here he was. "Relax." Jun-ho's voice oozed through the crack in the door. "Once the interview derails, the network will drop him. He'll crumble, and we won't have to worry about his little comeback." Jae-young's stomach twisted. This wasn't just about Eun-woo's reputation. This was about destroying him entirely. She stepped back, her heel catching on the carpet. The sound was small, but enough to draw silence from the room. The door creaked open an inch. Jae-young darted into shadows before anyone could see her, her breath shallow, her mind racing. By the time she returned to the green room, Eun-woo was fastening his mic, oblivious to the storm she had just stumbled into. "You okay?" he asked, noticing her pale face. "Fine," she lied quickly. But her hands trembled as she reached for her coffee cup. Should she tell him? The logical part of her screamed yes, warn him, prepare him, fight back. But another part hesitated. If she told him now, just minutes before the interview, would it shake his composure? Would it plant fear where he needed strength? She stared at his reflection in the mirror. The weight he carried was already visible in his eyes. Could he handle another blow? No, not yet. She had protected him quietly from the shadows, just like she always had. The studio lights were merciless. They bore down on Eun-woo as he took his seat across from the host, cameras circling, millions watching from home. Jae-young remained offstage, her heart pounding in rhythm with the red recording light. She scanned the control booth, her gaze landing on Jun-ho standing casually among the crew, a headset perched on his ears. His smirk was almost imperceptible, but she saw it. She clenched her fists. The interview started smoothly. The host asked about the allegations, the rumors, the betrayals. Eun-woo answered with calm conviction, his voice steady, his truth shining through every carefully chosen word. For the first time in months, Jae-young saw hope flicker in his eyes. He was winning them over. And that was exactly when the sabotage would strike. 6. Countdown to chaos. 15 minutes in. The host leaned forward for a follow-up question. The teleprompter flickered. Jae-young's breath caught. She glanced toward the control booth. Jun-ho's hand hovering over the switchboard. His expression unreadable. 16 minutes. Eun-woo was hitting his stride, his confidence growing with every word. 17. The lights above him buzzed just slightly, as though electricity itself braced for collapse. 18. Jun-ho raised his hand, signaling something to a technician. Jae-young's pulse roared in her ears. 19 minutes. She moved before she could think. Sprinting past startled crew members, she shoved her way into the control booth. "Stop," she shouted, slamming her hand against the switchboard just as Jun-ho reached for it. The crew gasped. Heads turned. The broadcast was still live. Jun-ho narrowed his eyes, his voice venomous, but low enough only she could hear. "You shouldn't have come back, Jae-young." "Neither should you," she spat. The tension snapped like a live wire. Alarms blinked across the board as technicians scrambled to stabilize the feed. The chaos gave her just enough time to yank the override lever, locking the broadcast system into manual. The sabotage was halted, at least for now. But Jun-ho leaned closer, his whisper like poison. "This isn't over. You've chosen the wrong side again." 8. The truth on air. Unaware of a near disaster, Eun-woo continued speaking on stage. His final words carried a kind of quiet power that couldn't be staged. "I may not be perfect. I've made mistakes. But I will never betray the trust of those who believe in me. That is my promise, not just tonight, but always." The studio erupted in applause. Jae-young exhaled for the first time in 20 minutes, her body trembling with adrenaline. She caught sight of Eun-woo glancing offstage, his eyes searching until they found hers. In that fleeting second, their gazes locked. And though he didn't yet know what she had just done, she felt the silent bond between them tighten, stronger than ever. 9. The aftermath. When the cameras shut off, the crew buzzed with relief, congratulating each other on a smooth broadcast. Only Jae-young knew how close it had come to collapsing. Jun-ho was gone, vanished before security could arrive. The air in the green room felt heavier after Jae-young overheard that whispered conspiracy. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, the hum of the fluorescent light above sharp enough to slice her nerves. She leaned against the wall, heart hammering so hard she feared it would give her away. She couldn't shake the laugh she had heard, Jun-ho's cruel, familiar laugh. It wasn't just a voice from her past. It was a warning of the chaos to come. When she returned to Eun-woo, she caught him staring into the mirror, not at his tie or his carefully groomed appearance, but at his eyes. "You know what I hate about mirrors?" he murmured without looking at her. She tilted her head. "What?" "They show you what you don't want to see." His voice was steady, but his fingers tightened around the coffee cup she had given him earlier. "No matter how much I prepare, how much I tell myself I'll get through this, the man staring back at me, he doesn't believe it." Her chest tightened. The public saw Cha Eun-woo, the flawless idol, the unshakable actor. But she saw the truth, a man stitched together with doubts, scars, and an aching need to be understood. She wanted to tell him about Jun-ho, about the plan to destroy him, but something stopped her. Maybe it was fear that the truth would shatter the fragile courage he had built. Maybe it was selfish, wanted to carry the burden herself, so he wouldn't have to. Instead, she touched his hand lightly, then stopped looking in the mirror. "Look at me instead." For the first time, he smiled, a real one. Time ticked forward mercilessly, as the crew bustled about with last-minute adjustments. Jae-young slipped back into the corridor, unable to let go of the voices she had heard. She needed to know more. The hallway stretched like a tunnel of secrets, lined with half-closed doors and forgotten props. The muffled sound of laughter echoed faintly, the kind of laughter that wasn't warm but sharp, dangerous. She followed it. The closer she got, the clearer the words became. This isn't just about Un-woo. It's about control. If the network sees him fail tonight, they'll know he's not invincible. The board will listen. The tide will turn. Jae-young pressed herself against the wall, barely daring to breathe. It wasn't just sabotage. It was a power play at the highest level. Un-woo wasn't just fighting for his name. He was caught in a war he didn't even know existed. Her stomach twisted. Should she confront Junho now, expose him before the broadcast even began? Or would that risk everything? Throwing Un-woo into panic minutes before he stepped under the lights? The indecision weighed heavier than any secret she had ever carried. When she returned, Un-woo was already mic'd up. A sound technician adjusted the pack on his belt, while another checked the levels in his earpiece. He caught her eye. You disappeared again. Her throat went dry, just making sure everything's running smoothly. His gaze lingered on her, searching, almost as though he could sense the storm in her chest. But before he could say more, the stage manager called, "Cha Un-woo, you're up in 5. The room shifted. Suddenly, everything was real. The hum of the studio audience filtered through the walls. The countdown had begun. As Un-woo rose to his feet, Jae-young adjusted his collar, more for comfort than necessity. Her hand lingered longer than it should have, her heart begging her to speak. "There's something I need to tell you," she whispered. He frowned slightly. "What is it?" But the stage manager's voice boomed again. 3 minutes. Her words stuck in her throat. To warn him now would be to plant fear where he needed strength. So she swallowed it. "Nothing. Just trust yourself." He nodded slowly, though doubt flickered across his face. As he walked toward the stage, Jae-young lingered behind, her fists tightening at her sides. If she couldn't warn him without breaking his focus, then she would fight another way. She would stand guard, ready to throw herself between him and the trap laid out before him. Her vow was silent, but absolute. He will not fall. Not tonight. Not while I still breathe. From her vantage point backstage, she watched as Un-woo took his seat opposite the host. The camera zoomed in, the lights bathed him in merciless white, and the nation leaned closer to their screens. Every word he spoke felt like a step across a cracking bridge. One wrong move, and he would plummet into the abyss of public hatred once more. But he held himself with grace, his voice calm, his answers thoughtful. Jae-young almost believed he could outrun the sabotage waiting for him. Almost. Then she saw it. The faint flicker on the teleprompter, the static ripple across the feed. The storm was approaching. In the control booth, Junho leaned forward, his hand poised like a vulture ready to strike. His lips curved into the faintest smile. Jae-young's blood boiled. She couldn't hear his words from this distance, but she didn't need to. She knew the rhythm of his cruelty too well. Her chest tightened with a memory of his betrayal years ago, the smug way he had dismissed her warnings, the way he had laughed when her career almost collapsed because she dared to stand against him. Not again. She slipped past a distracted crew member, edging closer to the booth. Her pulse was thunder in her ears. 19 minutes into the broadcast, Un-woo's voice faltered just slightly. He blinked. The teleprompter froze, the words cutting mid-sentence. For a terrifying second, silence swallowed the studio. Jae-young's heart stopped. The audience began to shift uncomfortably. The host glanced at the screen, confusion flickering across his face. And in that single heartbeat of silence, Jae-young saw it. The doubt crashing back into Un-woo's eyes, the fear that maybe the mirror had been right all along. She moved before she could think. 9, a desperate gamble. Bursting into the control booth, she shoved Junho's hand away from the switchboard. "Not tonight," she hissed, her voice trembling but fierce. Technicians shouted in alarm. Lights blinked. Junho grabbed her wrist, his grip iron tight. "You never learn, Jae-young," he sneered, low enough that only she could hear. "You always pick the losing side." "Better the losing side," she spat back, yanking free, than the side that destroys people for sport. With a surge of adrenaline, she slammed the manual override, forcing the feed back into stability. The teleprompter flickered once, then resumed. On stage, Eun-woo inhaled sharply, regaining his rhythm as though the pause had been deliberate. The audience leaned in, captivated. The danger had passed. When the cameras finally cut, applause roared through the studio. Crew members rushed to congratulate Eun-woo, but his gaze immediately searched the sidelines until it landed on her. She stood frozen, her heart still racing, the echo of Jun-ho's words clawing at her. Their eyes met. She wanted to tell him everything, that his victory tonight had been snatched from the jaws of sabotage, that her past had returned to haunt them both. But instead, she simply smiled, steady and unshaken, because some truths weren't